In this video, I'll show you how to combine data from your data source, a ChatGPT prompt, and data from Zendesk to display helpful information to your agents. We're going to do this by using a tool called FactBranch. It's an app that installs right here inside the ticket, in the ticket sidebar, and it can display helpful information to agents, interact with your data sources, but also with ChatGPT, for example. The first thing you need is a FactBranch account. You can get it at factbranch.com. There's a 14-day free trial, and you don't need a credit card to sign up. The first thing we have to do is connect FactBranch to your OpenAI account. We do this by creating a data source inside FactBranch, which is a RESTful API. Now go to your OpenAI account and create a new secret key. It's called API key or secret key. Once you have done that, come back here and select bearer and paste in the token you just got. And hit save. One thing we want to do as well is go in and rename this to just OpenAI API key, just so we know what this is. Now we have it. Good. The next step is we want to create a data pipeline. Data pipelines are called flows in FactBranch. And what we want to do is show data in the FactBranch Zendesk app. So this creates a very basic data pipeline that just consists of a Zendesk app trigger. This is the app you install in Zendesk, and the Zendesk app display. This is an HTML template that you can use to style the outputs you see in Zendesk. What's missing from here is a connection to our data source. You can select from a wide variety of data sources. In this example, so for example, this could be a Google Sheet or a database or another API or your own API, whatever you want. In this example, I'm using a MySQL database just to try it out. I'm gonna create a very simple query here. This is just basic SQL. What I'm doing here is I want to use placeholders. So when I say where the email address in the database, in the table, matches the email we get from the Zendesk ticket, I'm gonna copy the variable here and paste it here. And this will substitute in the real email address we get from the ticket. So when I run this query now, I don't get any results, and that's expected because we don't have test@example.com in the database. We have alice@example. So now I should get results. Yeah, and here we go. These are, this is a very basic test database, and these are just sample orders that Alice placed. And we're going to use this in the next step to augment our prompt to ChatGPT. I'm going to show you how you can do that. So if we go back to the data pipeline, you now see that it gets triggered by the Zendesk app, then it queries my database, and then it would display data in the Zendesk app, but we'll leave that for later. What I'm going to do now is create a node where I connect to the OpenAI API, and I'm selecting REST API because, the OpenAI API is just a REST API. I'm going to double check that the OpenAI API key was automatically selected, and it was, so that's all right. And And what I have to do here is we want to use the completions, the chat completions endpoint from the OpenAI API. And I've prepared a body here. And I'm going to explain this to you now. So here we tell GPT which model to use. So we're using GPT 3.5 Turbo because it's very fast and it's quite cheap at the moment. You can, of course, substitute this with GPT-4, which is more accurate and even better at data analysis, but it costs about 20 times more than GPT 3.5. So yeah, just keep that in mind. I've selected a temperature of 0.3, and I've done that because the temperature more or less tells GPT how creative it should be and how consistent. And I found that I get quite good results or more predictable results when I use a lower temperature. So you can play around with this value. And now for the real prompt, that's inside the messages. So the first message we send to GPT has the role system, and the system message more or less tells GPT what role it should play. So in our case, it should summarize. I've told it to summarize data into 1 to 3 bullet points that are relevant to a question. And I'm steering it in a way that it should include order date and ID if it thinks it's relevant. So if in the data it finds order ID and order date, and it's relevant to the question, it should include it. So yeah, that's the system prompt. And in the user prompt, I'm including the question I get from the ticket description. So that's whatever your requester in Zendesk writes. That's the ticket description. And the way you can get these values, of course, is if you don't want to trust me that these are correct, you see all the data you get in here. And so from the Zendesk app trigger, you would see a ticket description over here, and you could copy the variable and then paste in the same variable name here. The interesting part that's happening here is this escape quotes function that I'm attaching. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm inside a string of a JSON object. And what escape quotes does is it makes sure that all my quotes that are in the ticket description are escaped, so they don't break my JSON string here. So for example, if this would include if the ticket text would say hello test, so we would see this breaks the string here, and we don't want to have that. So that's why I'm using escape quotes. So next, I'm just adding 2 new lines. That's just for to tell the model that the ticket description is over, to structure my prompt a bit, and then I'm including the data. And what I'm doing here is I'm getting the data from my previous node, and I want to use the all of the data. So I'm just simply converting this into a JSON, and or actually FactBranch in the background converts this into a JSON, into the JSON format, and just includes it here. And the same reason we add escape quotes over here, because the JSON that I'm including in this string will have quotes, and so they should be escaped as well. What I have to change, of course, is the node ID. I'm just gonna go in here and copy the variable, paste it here, and I don't just want the rows, I want all of the data. Okay, if we run this now, It just got a response from ChatGPT, and the response you're getting might look familiar to you if you've worked with the API before. If not, I'm just gonna explain it to you. So the thing you're looking for is inside message content. So this string is what we're interested in. And as you can maybe see already, it's sort of a bullet point list. Here's a new line. It has extracted the order date, the order ID, and the customer name, customer email, apparently. Yeah, so it turned it into a bullet point list. And that's because I think the ticket description that we gave it, this is a test ticket, doesn't really do anything. But we're gonna see if it works in our test ticket in the end. The next step is to take that and turn it into a display. And I've also prepared something here, and I'm gonna walk you through this now. So again, I'm gonna go in here and copy the variable for the message content and replace this here. This is just my my boilerplate code. So I'm paste over this. Now this should work. Oh yeah, here we go. So two things that are important here. So first, I'm just using a style from FactBranch to output the summary title, the label. Then I'm using an unordered list. What we're doing here is we're taking the message content and splitting it by the new line sign. This is this \n. And the reason we can do that is because we told ChatGPT to create a bullet point list, and so it simply it puts every item it wants to tell us on a new line, and that's a very easy way for us to get to be able to split the message we get into multiple lines. And what I do next here is inside here, I'm removing the first two characters from the line. And that's because most of the time when ChatGPT creates a bullet point list, it will begin each line with a minus or a number. And then a white space, and so we're just removing those two characters to get a clean line. And then we're just outputting one list item per line, and that's all. Now there's only one thing left. We're gonna install the app in Zendesk, and the way I'm gonna do that is I'm going to go into the Zendesk app trigger in FactBranch, and there you have a short guide how to install the app, and I'm selecting Zendesk Support. We also have apps for Cell or Chat, but I want to install it in Support now. This takes you to the Marketplace page. Hit install, select the instance you want to install it in. Then it'll you can name the app whatever you like. Then it'll ask you for the FactBranch API key. Now if we have to go back and copy the API key from the trigger page, paste it in here. You can enable role restrictions or group restrictions if you just want to show the app to some of your agents, but if not, just click install. Okay, if we now return to the ticket and reload the app sidebar, you see that FactBranch is loaded and it got some real response from ChatGPT, and it also makes sense. So the question was, Alice wants to return the hoodies she has ordered, and it has extracted the order date and the order ID from the data we gave it, and also it included Alice's email address. So this is basically, maybe if I go back and show you the data pipeline. So if you just want to give ChatGPT the ticket text, for example, or a ticket subject, you could simply do this by not querying your database and directly going to the OpenAI API. But also you could look up data here, or have multiple data sources, whatever you like. Yeah, I think this is a very interesting use case for FactBranch, and I hope you try it out. If you need help at any point, just reach out to support@factbranch.com and tell us what you think about this.